Hi guys, welcome to Talk That Trace. On today's video, I wanted to address anyone who has been feeling within the past weeks or months either restless or afraid or shameful or a combination of the three. This video is for you. I was doing some reading in Genesis and I came across a couple of revelations that stood out to me, and I pray that these revelations will help bring you peace and bring you back into the arms of the Father where you belong. So the text that I'm going to start with is Genesis 2:25, which talks about how Adam and Eve, his wife Eve, were both naked and they felt no shame. And very shortly after that, the serpent approached Eve and convinced her to eat of the tree of good and evil. And if you drop down to the text in verse 7 in chapter 3 of Genesis, the text reads, "Then the eyes of the both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves." Then a few verses down, verse 9, "But the Lord called to the man, 'Where are you?' Verse 10, he answered, 'I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid.'" Verse 11, and he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" There's a very stark contrast between chapter 2 and chapter 3, where Adam and Eve were naked in chapter 2 and they felt no shame. And then in chapter 3, after the fall, they felt shame. And then they felt afraid. And I was really reflecting on this and asking God, like, what happened? How could they feel such awful things in really just a means of a couple verses? Like, what happened that caused them to feel this way? And the revelation that I got was it was the first time that they experienced what it was like to not be in the presence of God. From when the Lord made Adam, all Adam knew was being in the Lord's presence. He walked with the Lord in the garden in the cool of the day. He understood what it was like to have fellowship with the Lord. That's all he knew. They had such a close relationship that he was given tasks to do by the Lord, and there was a trust there. The Lord trusted Adam to name the animals and the beasts of the field and the fish of the sea and the birds in the air. There was trust. There was relationship. And then all of a sudden, it was like the serpent distorted Eve's trust in the Lord and made her think that the Lord was holding something out on her. So she wanted to be like the Lord and ended up eating this fruit. And now all of a sudden, they're both experiencing for the first time what it was like to not be in the presence of the Lord. Now, obviously, God is asking where they were, but it wasn't because he didn't know where they were, but it was the first time where they realized that they were not in fellowship with the Lord anymore. And when that happens, the enemy and pretty much sin came into the world, and feeling afraid, feeling shameful, are those not two of the biggest ailments that we deal with on this planet today? Being afraid of any little thing and feeling shame for any little thing. It's not of God. It's not of God. If you fast forward to chapter 4 in Genesis, it talks about the story of Cain and Abel, where pretty much they were given the opportunity to give offerings to the Lord, and Abel gave his offering of fat portions and Cain gave an offering of grains, and the Lord accepted Abel's offering but was not so pleased with Cain's. but it wasn't because of the physical offering. It was actually the condition of the heart. So Abel gave he gave his choicest, best portion to the Lord, and Cain didn't follow suit. So the Lord wasn't as pleased. And rather than Cain having a change of heart and going back to the drawing board and coming up with a suitable offering, he got jealous and ended up killing Abel. And what ended up happening was the Lord was going to banish him from the land that he was in. And if you jump down to the text, verse 14, chapter 4, it reads, "Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." Have you ever had seasons where you feel restless and you just feel like you're wandering around? You have no idea what's going on, where you are, where you're headed. You're just like a nomad. You don't have a place to rest your head. And I thought, wow, what a stark contrast of literally being hidden from your presence and being a restless wanderer. It's just like you're hidden, you're restless. You have no place to settle down. And I thought, wow, how much more do we have to be aware of our circumstances and our surroundings when we feel these things rise up in us, the restlessness and the fear and just being afraid. And how much more do we have to really run to the Father as opposed to hide from him? He doesn't want us to hide. The Lord called out to Adam because he didn't know what it was like to not be near his creation. The other week I was driving and I saw a double number. I saw 8484. And usually what happens is when I see double numbers, it typically means that the Lord is trying to highlight a psalm to me that he wants me to focus on for the day or the week until I gain a specific revelation. And it was very interesting that I found this psalm, or this psalm was revealed to me, because it is pretty much the polar opposite of what we just read in Genesis. And I'm going to draw some parallels between the two, but if you want to read along with me, feel free. Psalm 84. "How lovely is your dwelling place, Lord God Almighty. My soul yearns, even faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may have her young, a place near your altar. Lord God Almighty, my King and my God, blessed are those who dwell in your house. They are ever praising you. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, whose hearts are set on pilgrimage. As they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The autumn rains also cover it with pools. They go from strength to strength, till each appears before God in Zion. Hear my prayer, Lord God Almighty. Listen to me, God of Jacob. Look on our shield, O God. Look with favor on your anointed one. Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those whose walk is blameless. Lord Almighty, blessed is the one who trusts in you." And I just thought that this was such a beautiful psalm that really emphasizes and highlights the value of being in the presence of God. Not even the presence, just being in his courts. Back to Genesis, how there, for the first time, Adam and Eve experienced what it was like to not be in the Lord's presence, and how empty they felt. And Cain, how he knew that he wasn't going to find a place to rest his head. he'd just be wandering to and fro without the Lord's presence. It's an anchor. God's presence is an anchor. It's a shield. It covers you. You find your home in God's presence. So may I encourage you, if you are experiencing these things, if you feel restless, if you feel afraid, may I encourage you just to run back into the arms of the Father, because He's waiting for you. And it's not about praying some frilly prayer. It's just saying, Lord, I repent for straying away from you. I just need you. I just need you. Would you wrap me in your wings and bring me back into your bosom and just engulf me with your presence once more? And the beautiful thing about God is He is so willing. He is so willing. He's so eager to do that. When we put more value in His presence than over other worldly things, there's no arrow of offense or anything that the enemy can throw at you that can deter you from what really matters in life. And I've missed the mark more times than I can count, but isn't that the goodness of God, that He's always willing to meet us where we're at? All we have to do is cry out to Him. And again, Psalm 84 is just a beautiful depiction of how important it is to always be yearning for the Lord's presence, and how the Lord is just a shield. And as long as we trust in Him, we'll never fall susceptible to whatever the enemy is trying to bait us with. It doesn't matter what it is. Nothing that the enemy offers is better than what the Lord has for us. So I pray that this bless you and that you find encouragement in this. And if you guys have any other questions that I could help answer, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to take a stab at them to the best of my ability. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.